In this video, we are going to learn how to add fractions which have different denominators. To understand how we add two fractions with different denominators, let us consider an example. Let us add the two fractions 1 over 3 and 2 over 5. Let us have a look at the denominators of these two fractions. Now, the denominators of the fractions are the numbers on the bottom. So the denominator for the first fraction can be seen to be 3, and the denominator for the second fraction can be seen to be 5. Now, these two numbers are different, so we can see that the denominators are different. Now, to add these two fractions, the first thing we need to do is find a common denominator. That is, we need to find a common multiple of the denominators 3 and 5. Now, note that 15 is a common multiple of 3 and 5. So what we're going to do next is we're going to rewrite the given fractions 1 over 3 and 2 over 5 as equivalent fractions whose denominators are 15. So have a look at the first fraction. The denominator is 3. And how do we change 3 to 15? We multiply 3 by 5. And since we want an equivalent fraction, we also need to multiply the numerator by 5. Now, for the second fraction, the denominator is 5. How do we change 5 to 15? We need to multiply it by 3. And since we want an equivalent fraction, we need to multiply the numerator by that same number 3. So what happens if we do that? We have 1 times 5, that is 5, divided by 3 times 5, that is 15. And with this, we add 2 times 3, which is 6, divided by 5 times 3, which is 15. So now what do we have? We have two fractions, the denominators of which are the same. Both of them have the denominator of 15. And how do we add two fractions with the same denominator? We add the numerators and write that over the common denominator. So in this case, we can see that the common denominator is 15. So we have 15 in the denominator. And in the numerator, we are going to add the numerators of the original two fractions. So we need to add 5 and 6. So in the numerator, we are going to write 5 plus 6. So 5 plus 6 is 11, and we divide this by 15. And so this is our required answer. That is 1 over 3 plus 2 over 5 is equal to 11 over 15. So how do we add two fractions with different denominators? First of all, we determine a common denominator. Then we rewrite the fractions into equivalent fractions having that common denominator. And then using the rule for adding two fractions with the same denominator, that is by adding the numerators and then writing that over the common denominator, we will get the sum of our two fractions. Now, note that we can use any common denominator of the two fractions. Let us consider this example once more, 1 over 3 plus 2 over 5. Now, the denominators are 3 and 5. We already used 15 as a common denominator. Now, instead of 15, let us consider 30. 30 is also a common multiple of 3 and 5, and so we can use that to add these two fractions. So how are we going to do that? How do we change 3 to 30? We multiply 3 by 10. And we want an equivalent fraction, so we will multiply the numerator by 10 as well. And how do we change 5 to 30? We need to multiply 5 by 6. And so we are going to have to multiply the numerator by 6 as well to obtain an equivalent fraction. So what happens if we do this? We have 1 times 10, which is 10, divided by 3 times 10, which is 30. And here we have 2 times 6, which is 12, divided by 5 times 6, which is 30. So we have the same denominator for both fractions, which is 30. So we're going to write that in the denominator. And in the numerator, we are going to write the sum of the numerators of the two original fractions. So we have 10 plus 12. Now 10 plus 12 is 22, and we divide this by 30. And now we can reduce this fraction by 2. That is, we can divide the numerator by 2, and we can divide the denominator by 2 as well to obtain a simplified fraction. Now 22 divided by 2 is 11, and 30 divided by 2 is 15. So we can see that we have obtained the same result. Once again, we have obtained that the sum of the two fractions is 11 over 15. So we can use any common denominator that we want, but usually we use the least common denominator. That is, we will use the least common multiple of the two denominators so that our calculations become simpler. Next, let us have a look at a few practice problems to properly understand the method to add two fractions with different denominators. Have a look at the first problem. We have 3 over 4 plus 1 over 6. Now the denominators are 4 and 6. So we have different denominators, and so first of all we need to find a common denominator. That is, we need to find a common multiple of 4 and 6. Now a common multiple of 4 and 6 is 12. So next we are going to rewrite these fractions into equivalent fractions such that the denominators are equal to 12. So how do we change 4 to 12? We multiply 4 by 3, and we want an equivalent fraction, so we're going to multiply the numerator by 3 as well. How do we change 6 to 12? We have to multiply it by 2, so we multiply the numerator by 2 as well. So what do we get? We end up with 3 times 3, which is 9, divided by 4 times 3, which is 12, plus 1 times 2, which is 2, divided by 6 times 2, which is 12. So now we have two fractions with the same denominator of 12. So we have 12 in the denominator, and in the numerator we will add the numerators of the original two fractions. So 9 plus 2. Now 9 plus 2 is 11, and we divide this by 12, and so this is our required answer. The sum of the fractions 3 over 4 and 1 over 6 will be 11 over 12. Now let us have a look at the next problem. Here we have 1 over 4 plus 1 over 12. So the denominators are 4 and 12. Now we need to find a common denominator, so we need to find a common multiple of 4 and 12. And 12 is a common multiple of these two numbers. So let us rewrite these fractions into equivalent fractions, which have the denominators equal to 12. Now, how do we change 4 to 12? We just need to multiply that by 3. So we're going to multiply the numerator by 3 as well. And in the second fraction, the denominator is already 12. So we don't need to do anything to change that fraction. So we have 1 times 3, which is 3, divided by 4 times 3, which is 12. And we add this with 1 over 12. Now the denominators of both these fractions is 12, and so in the denominator we will have 12. And in the numerator we will add the numerators of the original two fractions. So we have 3 plus 1. So we have 4 over 12. And we can reduce this fraction by dividing the numerator and the denominator by 4. So we have 4 divided by 4, that is 1, divided by 12 divided by 4, that is 3. And so this will be our required answer. 1 over 4 plus 1 over 12 is equal to 1 over 3. Now let us have a look at the next problem. So next we have 5 over 7 plus 2 over 5. Now the denominators are 7 and 5. We want a common denominator, that is, we want to find a common multiple of 7 and 5. Now a common multiple is 35. So let's change these fractions into equivalent fractions whose denominators are equal to 35. Now how do we change 7 to 35? We need to multiply it by 5. So we multiply the numerator by 5 as well. And how do we change 5 to 35? We multiply that by 7. And so we multiply the numerator by 7 as well. So what do we end up with? We have 5 times 5, which is 25, divided by 7 times 5, which is 35. And we add this with 2 times 7, which is 14, divided by 5 times 7, which is 35. So the common denominator is 35, and in the numerator, we are going to add the numerators of the original two fractions. So we have 25 plus 14, that is equal to 39, and we divide this by 35. So this is our required answer. 5 over 7 plus 2 over 5 is 39 over 35. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. See you next time.